I wanted to maybe distill a bit of the qualities you've seen in people that get more success in sales and things that we can nurture within ourselves to even be better and showing up and being able to close those deals.
Well, I'll give you the number one, and this number one thing ends up playing out into everything else. And it's gonna be one that sounds like everyone's gonna go, oh yeah, I've heard that before. Yeah, I got that. Tell me something I don't know. But I really want to sit with this one. If I had a group of salespeople and their boss hired me to work with them and said, Jamie, you can only teach them one thing, and they've got to double their sales with this one thing. What you going to teach them? I'd say you need to learn to listen. You need to learn to listen. Now, here's the thing, though. By listening, what I'm talking about is so here's the thing. If I ask people, how good of a listener are you? Everyone rates themselves at between 7 and 9. They're like, I've got a little room for improvement, but I'm a pretty great listener. Everyone thinks that. But actually, when we dig into it, I find that almost everyone is waiting for their turn to talk. Yeah, they're listening, but they're thinking about what they're going to say and how they're going to say it and what their next point's going to be or that sort of thing. Now, we've been taught to listen like that, but you were born a listener. And it's your innate capacity to listen that allowed you to learn to talk, that allowed you to learn to sense people's emotions and all that sort of stuff. And so the first thing I do when I'm teaching people to listen is I teach them to listen with nothing on their mind. Now, we all have an innate capacity to do that, but here's why it's so important. When you really, really listen deeply and follow your curiosity about what you're hearing, what you do is you create the conditions for a genuine sense of connection. See, you'd be amazed, Jason, most people go through their lives day to day without any experience of anyone actually listening to them. And what you find, you'll go in to speak to a CEO or a company owner, and they'll say, listen, I've only got 15 minutes, so go, tell me what you need to tell me. You start asking them questions and you listen deeply. They call their secretary and say, hold my calls. And you end up being there for an hour and a half. And in that process, you really get the client's world. So there are two things you need in order to close a deal, in order to sell something. Number one, you need to have a relationship with your client. They need to know you and like you and trust you. And the funny thing is, the way that you develop knowing and liking and trusting is through conversation. Now, that can be through listening in on a conversation. So you've got people who have listened to tons of your podcasts, Jason, so they will know you and like you and trust you because they'll have heard from you enough to have a sense of what you're about and that sort of thing. So that's one way to do it. The real-time way to do it is in a conversation. And so when you're in conversation with someone and someone's having the experience of really being heard by you, that's going to build that relationship. So the first thing you need in order to close a deal, you need to have a relationship where the client knows you and likes you and trusts you. Well, when you really listen to someone, when they really feel heard and really feel understood by you, that builds a level of knowing and liking and trusting like nothing else. But here's the thing, it's not a trick or a technique. You got to actually do it. You got to actually listen. And you listen, you get their world. And here's the thing, when you do that, you'll ask questions and you'll hear things, and the two of you will discover things together about what's going on for them, about what they want, about what matters for them, that they didn't even know, okay? So that the first thing is that you gotta have to do a deal is you gotta have that trusted advisor relationship, okay? Now here's the thing, in my experience, It takes around about the same amount of time to build a relationship where you can close $1,000 deal as it does to build a relationship where you can close $100,000 deal. It's not like you don't need, like maybe you don't need much relationship to buy a loaf of bread off someone. But once you're talking about someone spending their time with you and opening up to you and allowing you to serve them in a transformational way, you got to have that knowing and liking and trusting. So that's the first thing you need. Second thing you got to have, your client has to be present to some problem they want to solve, some goal they want to achieve, some change they want to make, some transformation they want to go through, some result they want to get. They got to be present to that. They've got to not only know what that is, they've got to have it in their mind, and they've got to be aware of the benefit that that's going to make in their life. They got to be present to that. And one of the things I've seen with a lot of solopreneurs, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of people, especially a lot of people who kind of are reluctant to sell, is they don't know how to listen. They don't know how to find out what someone wants, and they don't know how to get to the heart of what that person really wants. Well, here's the funny thing. Often they do know, because they'll often have been trained as coaches or therapists, so they do know how to listen, they do know how to ask questions and that sort of thing. That all goes out the window when they go into a selling situation. So it turns out that often the things that most qualify you for helping people are also the things that most qualify you for having a heart-centered, deeply connected sales conversation.
I absolutely love this advice. And it's one that I keep reminding myself, even as I host a podcast. A lot of times I'm having conversations with guests and I find it's actually quite similar to a sales conversation, and the beauty that happened. And I've been doing this for a little while now. It's been almost 300 episodes on this one. And I realized that the more I let go about what am I going to say once that person stops talking, the more I'm actually able to do, as you say, listen, lead the conversation naturally because of that innate curiosity.